Hello students, and welcome to this video on general journals. I want us to do this question together. It's called ASARA Enterprises and it's worth 15 marks. We can read together. It goes as follows. The following information was taken from the books of ASARA Enterprises at the beginning of April 2015. The owner contributed 60,000 Rand cash to start the business and also a vehicle with 25,000 Rand on the first to be used in the business. So I know the first few sentences, these sentences relate to capitals, so I just want to highlight them. Then it says this is a dealer which manufactures first year accounting books for university students, and all amounts include VAT at 14%. On the 2nd of April, he brought computers from Intel Computers and paid by check 17,000, took a loan from a financial institution 15,000, then received a check of 12,000 from a debtor paying. On the 5th, they say withdrew from the bank in the morning 5,000 and later in the afternoon 8,000 Rand for stationery. On the 6th, paid a supplier for goods delivered to the business. He gave 9,000 Rand to Adam as a loan, one of his employees. Then on the 9th of April, he withdrew books that are worth 5,000 Rand and gave them to his daughter. She's a student. Then on the 11th of April, a debtor is insolvent and debt worth 2,500 Rand is written off. Just want to put a space there. Then on the 12th of April, received cash from Adam for the loan of 5,000 Rand to him, or received 5,000 Rand for the loan that was made to Adam. You will see actually it was 9,000 Rand that was lent to him. Then on the 13th of April, sold books to students worth 30,000. On the 20th of April, bought furniture on credit. On the 23rd of April, there is depreciation worth 500 Rand on the computers. Then on the 27th of April, paid the remaining balance to the financial institution on the loan account, and then paid electricity for 300 Rand on the 28th. And you are required then to prepare the general journal entries for these transactions, and you need to round to the nearest 1 Rand. Some important information there to remember, that you need to round then to the nearest 1 Rand. I am going to then complete the answer in the format of Excel, and I want to include the date, the description, and then of course also a debit and a credits column for a general journal. So I want us to start on the 1st of April, and there you will agree with me that he made some contributions toward capital. So what is important to remember about capital is that no VAT is measured on capital contributions. Very important to remember. They might catch you out with that. So please remember, if we have capital, you cannot have any values for your VAT filled out. Alright, so there's 2 capital contributions. So I know I am definitely going to credit the capital account. And then there will be 2 debits, because the bank will increase by a value of, they say that the cash was given worth 60,000, and then also a debit for the asset that is called vehicles, because the business received a vehicle worth 25,000 Rand. So the total capital contribution made by the owner is then 85,000. For this general journal, I need a proper narration, so I'm going to write there, capital contributions made by the owner. Again, I'm going to say this again, very, very important, that there will be no VAT on capital. I just want to indicate again, remember bank is an asset and it is increasing, so therefore we have a debit. The vehicle is also an asset which increase, therefore a debit, and then capital is your equity which is also increasing because this owner is now investing more money in this business. That was for the 1st of April. On the 2nd of April, we also have a entry. I want to correct the wording there. So on the 2nd of April, they tell you in the question, if we quickly go back to the question, you will see that he actually brought computers by check for 17,000 rand. By check, important because that tells me that it was for cash. So what are the accounts that I'm going to work with? Well, I am going to debit my equipment because I'm buying computers. Then I'm also going to have a debit because I'm going to work with an input VAT. And I am going to have a credit for bank. So remember, equipment is an asset. When we buy it, it increases. Also important to remember a VAT input. A VAT input is an asset account. And you will use the input when you have obtained or when you have paid for something or you have a creditor. In that case, you will have an input VAT. So input VAT is when you've paid for something or when a creditor is formed. Then the bank account is a credit because this is an asset, but it is decreasing because a payment needs to be made. So now I've indicated to you what are the accounts that we're going to work with. We're going to work with equipment because we buy computers. We're going to work with input VAT because it's an asset. Input VAT is applicable when we pay or we create a creditor, and then it was a payment in cash, so the asset bank will be decreasing. What is also important is then to know, and I just want to insert an entire column here, and this column is not needed. This is just for explanatory purposes. So I'm just going to make it bold and red. It's important to remember which percentage is represented by which line item because we are working with that. So typically we have 100%, 14%, and then 114%. So if the payment was made out of bank, the bank represents 114%. Of course, the input VAT will be 14% because that's the VAT portion, and the equipment will be 100% because when we have paid for something, an asset or an expense, it represents 100%. So all amounts include VAT, which means that it is 114%, and the amount of 17,000 will then be credited for the bank account. Then I need to go and determine, but what is then the amount of the asset input VAT? And there I will say, well, I have 17,000 Rand. It is representative of 114%, but I want to calculate 14%, and that will give you, then rounded to a full 1 Rand, 2088 for that. Then your equipment will be 100%, so you're going to say 17,000 was representative of 114%, and I'm going to times by 100 because I want 100% for equipment, and rounded to a full Rand value, it's 14,912. So that will be the entry where you have purchased your asset equipment. Then we also have an entry on the 3rd of April. On the 3rd of April, you will see, if I quickly go back, on the 3rd of April, they took out a loan from a financial institution. What is very important here, and they're trying to catch you out, is that there will be no VAT on loans because that's a financial service and there's no VAT on financial services. So if you took out a loan, what will happen? You will debit your bank account because the asset is increasing. Of course, when you get a loan, they pay it into your bank account, and that means that you will have more money in your bank. And you will credit your loan account, and this is a liability which is now increasing as well. And the amount given there is 15,000, 15,000, And I forgot about my narration, so sorry. On the 2nd of April, we will say we purchase equipment. And for the 3rd of April, we will say obtain a loan. Right, as you can observe, no VAT in your capitals on the 1st, no VAT for the loan on the 3rd. Then we are on the 4th of April. Again, we will see there that they say receive a check from a debtor who is now paying. Right, what is very, very important to remember, the debtor is now paying, and we will not record VAT for the payment because the VAT was recorded when the credit sale had been done. So let's just say previously what had happened, and this is now not part of the required part, but I want to demonstrate to you the entry that was made. On the date that this credit sale took place, it might have been the previous month, so it would have probably been in March. This debtor came to you and they brought things worth 12,000 Rand. So you would have said, all right, so I'm going to debit the debtors, which is an asset increasing because these people owe you more. You would have had a credit for your VAT output. And this is now a liability, and a VAT output is when you receive cash or you create a debtor. So some students still don't understand the simple difference between a debtor and a creditor. Please remember, a creditor is someone to who you owe money. So a creditor is when you've purchased something on a deferred payment term. A debtor is when someone else has purchased something from your business per a deferred payment term. So for a VAT output, we receive cash or we create a debtor, and then we will have a VAT output. And then we also would have credited the sales. So sales will always go together with debtors. I've noticed that some of the students, they credit the sales, but then they debit the creditor. A creditor and a sale can never, ever, ever go together. A sale must go with a debtor or a bank entry. A sale is an income which is now increasing. And this is now the previous month when the debtor first came to buy the product from you. The debtor will be representative of 114%. The output is 14 and the income is 100. So please notice how the debtor or the creditor represents 114%. So what is the amount? They say that on the 4th that it was 12,000 Rand. So there's the 12,000 Rand entry. For the output, you would say 12,000 divided by 114% times 14 gives me, if I round it, a 1474. And then the sales is representative of 100%. So it's 12,000 divided by 114 times 100, and if that is rounded to a full Rand, you will get 10526. So this is the entry that would have been made. And you will observe here that the VAT was already recorded because this is a deferred payment term. So the VAT is already recorded. Now, in the second step on the 4th of April, when the debtor comes to pay, we do not record VAT again because that's a double entry. So we don't want to record something twice. So when a credit sale or a credit purchase had previously taken place, and then it is paid for or payment is received for it later on, we don't record the VAT again because that will be double counting. So now on the 4th of April, when we do receive a check, we're going to say, well, we debit the bank account with 12,000 and we credit the debtor with 12,000, and we don't record VAT again because it was already previously done when the sale first took place. The rule for that is it's recorded whenever an invoice, when earlier of an invoice or when money is received or paid. So here we already issued an invoice to these people and the VAT was already recorded. So please note that you don't record the VAT again when payment takes place. Right, that was the 4th of April. Then we also have an entry on the 5th of April. And on the 5th of April, they tell you, withdrew from the bank in the morning 5,000 Rand and later 8,000 Rand for stationery. So now they're trying to trick you here by using the word withdrew. This is not a drawing because this owner is buying stationery that will be used in your business. So what are the entries to be made there? So we're going to debit the stationery, which is an expense account, and it is increasing. And then we're going to have a debit entry. Will it now be a VAT input or a VAT output? It will be a VAT input because it is money paid. If money is paid, it's an input. If money is received, it's an output. So I'm going to say I need to debit the VAT input account, which is an asset account. Please take note. And then I'm going to say I'm going to credit the bank because this is an asset that is now decreasing. So what will be a representative of 114%? The bank account is 114%. The input VAT is 14%, and the stationery is 100%. So please note how an expense or an income is also always representative of 100%. If you're working with an expense or an income for VAT purposes, it represents 100%. Just want to again make it red and bold because it's just to explain. So I'm going to say for the 114%, the bank account is decreasing, and it's now 5,000 Rand plus 8,000 Rand, which is 13,000 Rand. For the 14,000, it's going to be 13,000 divided by 114 times 14. If I round up to a full 1 Rand, it is 1,596. And then for the stationery, it's 13,000 divided by 114 times 100. So the stationery rounded to the nearest 1 Rand is then 11,404. I need to write a narration here, so I'm going to say purchase stationery for cash. Again here, I've also missed the narration. I'm just going to say received payment from the debtor. Right, 5th of April done. We are now on the 6th of April, where goods are now delivered at the business and it is paid for immediately. So what am I going to say? Well, I am going to debit my inventory account. I'm going to debit the VAT input account. Why that input? Because I am paying for it. And then I'm going to credit my bank account because this asset is decreasing. The bank is a representative of 114%. That input, 14, inventory, 100%. And I credit the bank with the total of 20,000. For the VAT input, I'm going to say 20,000 divided by 114 times 14. Rounded there, I get to an amount of 2,456. And then for the inventory, I'm going to say 20,000 divided by 114 times 100 for inventory, and rounded up in Excel, that gives me 17544. My narration to be included there will then be purchased inventory for cash. And then I am on the 8th of April. On the 8th of April, you will see that there is a loan. The question says to you that this owner gave a loan to Adam, and Adam is one of his employees. So what am I going to do? I need to recognize now a asset, because I have now provided a loan to someone else, and this person owes me money. So I can either say loan to Adam, or I can say debtor Adam, whatever you want to do, but you recognize an asset and it is increasing because someone else is owing you money, and this will be your debit entry. Then your credit entry will of course be your bank account, because you will take the money out of your bank account and give it to Adam, and the amount for the loan is 9,000 rand. Please take note how we don't have any VAT entries here, because this is a loan, this is a financial service. There is no VAT to be recorded on a loan account. The next entry is on the 9th of April. On the 9th of April, they say withdrew books that are worth 5,000 rand and gave it to his daughter, who is a student. So now the owner has taken books from this business and given it to his daughter. So that means that it is for personal use. It is not for the business, but for the daughter. So what will I have? I will debit a drawing account. Then I will have a credit entry for that output, and I will have a credit entry for inventory. What is very important about drawings is that it should always include that. So drawings should include that always. So, and I have a VAT output, because it's now not something that I have paid, but I have given away inventory. So it represents an outflow of an asset. So instead of a payment and crediting bank, I'm crediting inventory. I have lesser assets, which makes that an output account. So the drawing will be 114%, the VAT will be 14%, and the inventory will be 100%. That is the representative percentages for this journal entry. Right, 114% was given to me, and they say it's worth 5,000. So the output will be 5,000 divided by 114 times 14, and then the inventory will be 5,000 divided by 114 times 800, and I will of course round up as the question says to have amounts rounded to a full 1 rand. Right, so here I will have a description, and I'm going to say it is drawing made by the owner. That is my entry on the 9th of April. Then on the 11th of April, there is another entry to be recorded there. On the 11th of April, the question says, a debtor is insolvent and debt worth 2,500 rand is written off. Alright, what are the accounts that I'm working with? I am going to debit the bad debts, because this expense is now more. Then I am going to debit and input that, and I am going to credit, of course, the debtor. Here you could also say output VAT if you are making the output VAT lesser. It doesn't matter, because both will then constitute a debit entry. The bad debts will be representative of 100%, because that's the expense, the input or the output change is 14%, and the debtor is then 114%. The amount that is written off, 2,500 rand. So for input VAT or for the output VAT, what is happening? There will be lesser VAT due to SARS because this debtor will now not come to pay, so I will not have to pay the VAT over to SARS. So then I'm going to say 2,500 divided by 114 times 14, and I'm also going to say 2,500 divided by 114 times 100. I need to round those amounts up to the nearest 1 rand, and I will have a description which says debtor has become insolvent. So there's my narration for that journal entry. There is also an entry on the 12th of April. And on the 12th of April, it says that you receive cash from Adam on the loan, and that is 5,000 rand. So what will happen? You will debit the bank because this asset is now more. And of course, you don't have to write this. I'm just writing it for explanatory purposes. And of course, you are then going to credit the loan to Adam because this is now an asset which decreases because Adam owes you less. The amount paid is 5,000 and 5,000. You will notice that I don't record any VAT because this is a loan account. Right, number 13, 13th of April. On the 13th of April, you sold books to students for cash, 30,000 rand. So what will that be? You will debit your bank account because the asset is more. You will then also credit your VAT output account because you have received money, and you will credit sales. The bank will represent 114%, the VAT 14%, the sales will represent 100%. So for the bank is increasing and the amount is 30,000. The VAT output, we're measuring an output because we receive money. When money is received or we recognize a debtor, it's an output. So I'm going to say 30,000 divided by 114 times 14 gives you the output that measured there. And then 30,000 divided by 114 times 100 will give you the sales to be recorded there. And you will notice that the sales is an income, and the income is more. And the income is always representative of 100%. Very, very important to remember. Right, we forgot to write a narration again. I'm just going to say cash sales made. For the loan to Adam, I just want to insert an entire row there. And for that description, I'm going to say receive payment on loan to employee. And we are now on the 20th of April. On the 20th of April, they say you brought furniture on credit, 25,000 rand. I will debit the furniture because this asset is increasing. I will definitely credit a creditor because it's on credit and I am buying it. Cannot be a debtor. I am the person who is buying something on credit. So it's a creditor that I recognize. And then also I'm going to have a credit or a debit entry rather, sorry. And this will be an input VAT that I am recognizing because if I have bought something it must be an input VAT. If I recognize a creditor, it has to be an input VAT. The creditor will be 114%. The input VAT is 14%. Complete that. And then the furniture will be 100%. Okay, just want to make sure that those are full. Right, we will credit the creditor because this liability is more. Okay, and the credit amount for the furniture, 25,000 rand. For the input VAT, I'm going to say 25,000 divided by 114 times 14. And for the amount of the furniture, 25,000 divided by 114 times 100, which will give you an amount of 21,930 rand. Then I am on the 23rd of April, and here I see that there is depreciation that I have to record. The double entry for depreciation is that I debit the depreciation, and this is still in adjustment to come, but just know so long this is an expense account, and the entry there is always accumulated depreciation, and that will be on a specific asset, and the accumulated depreciation will be on equipment as it is for computers. Right, so the amount there, 500 rand, and please note how there is no VAT to be recorded on depreciation. Then on the 27th of April, you will see that they tell you in the question that you have to pay the remaining amount on the a loan account. So I just want to see again what was the loan account. It was on the 3rd of April we took out a loan of 15,000, which is now repaid. So I'm going to debit the loan account because the liability is now decreasing, and I will of course credit the bank account because the asset is less. So the amount there was on the 3rd of April, it was 15,000 and 15,000. Please note no VAT entries there. Again, I just quickly need to put the correct narrations. So for the 20th, I will say buy furniture on credit. Here I will say record depreciation on computers, and here I'm going to say repay loan to financial institution. Right, we are on the 28th of April, and there I need to make a payment for electricity according to this question. So I'm going to say I need to debit the electricity account, which is an expense, which is increasing. I need to have a debit entry for input VAT because I am making a payment, and then I'm going to credit, of course, the bank account because the asset is now less. So the bank will be 114%. The input VAT is 14%. The electricity will be 100%. I just want to bold it there. So the bank payment, 300 rand. For input VAT, I'm going to say 300 divided by 114 times 14. I need to round that value. And then for the electricity, 300 divided by 114 times 100. And I'm also rounding it to a full 1 rand. For my narration, I'm going to say pay electricity. Just want to fix my spelling error there, electricity. And there's the journal entries that you should have made for ASARA Enterprises. I hope that this video has helped you a little bit more to understand that and the entries to be made for that when we have different transactions that takes place. I will then see you guys in class. Thank you very much for watching the video.